Welcome to the No Budget Indie Filmcast, where we dip into the independent film universe to highlight those little films that you might not have heard about elsewhere. Will you agree with our panel, or will our panel agree with each other? Tune in to find out. I am Mila Dennison, and with me, as always, is Claire Milan.
Hello.
And joining myself and Claire is Cathal Feeney.
Hello.
All right, Cathal, what are we watching this week?
This week we are watching a film called The Silent Child. The Silent Child is written and starring Rachel Shenton, and director is Chris Overton, and it stars Rachel Fielding and Maisie Sly. It won the Best Live Action Short at the 2018 Oscars. The film itself is about a profoundly deaf young child called Libby, and she lives with her family. It's an older brother and older sister and a mother and father, and to all intents and purposes, in this environment, she's kind of ignored, or her needs aren't being met. But she's due to start school soon, so they decide to bring in a social worker to kind of give her some confidence, is what they say. But the father, he tells her like they have low expectations, and this sort of sets the tone for the film in a way. The social worker is called Joanne, which is the Rachel Shenton character, and she starts to teach her sign language, and Libby really starts to thrive. She starts to communicate properly for the first time, really. But the mother is not happy about this. She wants her to concentrate on lip reading, mainly because she doesn't want to learn sign language herself. And also she's kind of jealous of the relationship that's developing between Joanne and Libby. And this is really the setup of the film. This relationship between the three of them is really like, you know, the kernel of the film. The mother, the daughter, and Libby, or the mother, the daughter, and Joanne. And within this dynamic, Libby is the most vulnerable and the most powerless, but she's also got the most to gain and the most to lose. The mother comes across as kind of heartless and, you know, not caring. Yeah, and you could argue this is done for like dramatic purposes, but according to Miss Shenton, this is quite common. Like, there's millions of children around the world. It's not an exaggeration. You know, they're all, you know, living in silence. It's very much a heart-wrenching film. You know, there's a scene. There was one scene in it where you see it from her point of view, the child's point of view, Libby's point of view, where they're at the table and they're all talking, and it's just complete silence, and it's quite poignant. You could argue that it's very much Oscar bait, you know, tearjerker, and I'm sure Milo will. But in terms of like the making of it, it's all top notch, you know, acting, cinematography. And Rachel Fielding, for instance, she was the mother. She's done quite a lot of TV. So I haven't seen any of the other films, so I don't know. You could say it was worthy winner, probably was, but still a good film.
It's quite interesting because I know this film, and I remember hearing of it when it first came out. And Rachel Shelton, she's an actress in Hollywood. I think she was in Hollyoaks originally, but her father, I think he got cancer or he had something, and he lost his hearing, and so she learned sign language. So she knew it, and so I think that's what her inspiration originally was, to create this. And I think it highlights a really, really important topic about children learning sign language and maybe people around them not, and them not being able to communicate. But I definitely felt in points, I started tearing up. I didn't expect to. And I think the child is so cute as well. You just can't help but like melt. You look at this little girl, and then all her siblings and even her parents don't really care, and they're so busy in their own lives. They don't seem to have much time for the little girl. and except a social worker who really connects with her, and there's kind of a jealousy that comes out from the mother then. But overall, it was a very powerful film, and I don't think it was an Oscar bait film. I think it was made for personal reasons as well, because of Rachel Shelton dealing with her father, and I think it's highlighting something. And I think it just became really successful in the festival circuit, and it did tick all the boxes to be an Oscar-winning film, and it did win in the end. But yeah, I thought it was really, really powerful.
Yeah, I did too. And you're right, Cathal. I do generally dislike these type of films that are, got somebody with a disability, and we've talked about it on this show many times. But I actually think it works in this film, and it did not bother me at all, because it is highlighting an issue, but it's done in a really well way of showing from the little girl's point of view. And you do hear about parents, they're like, well, I just want my child to be normal, right? I don't want to have to do anything. I just want the child to be normal. So make the child normal so I don't really have to do anything. So it's very believable in regards to the family. And when the social worker is not doing exactly what the mother wants and is then becoming friends with the daughter, you can believe everything that happens in this film. And yeah, the little girl just carries it. And that scene, you're right, where there's this family thing going on around the table, and then they just cut to the daughter's point of view of just this ultimate silence. It's just beautifully done. So yeah, in general, I don't like these type of films, but I'm going to make an exception for this one because it works really well. I can't fault it at all. Yeah.
I'm not saying that it was Oscar bait. I'd say it was it was a passion project that she made, but it's the type of film that does appeal to kind of, an
Oscar voters. Yeah, Oscar voters definitely like it.
Yeah, and I think she made it with her husband, her was a fiance at the time. But there's actually some beautiful cinematography in this, like I don't know where exactly it was shot, but I love the opening with her in a bicycle. Like the fact she wasn't just driving a car, like that was just a lovely touch, and you could see, like, it was just beautiful scenery in this. It shows the countryside. I mean, maybe that's kind of a sense of isolation, and the fact she's in a normal school as well. And there's one point, I think she, the social worker, she's looking at a formation in a classroom of how best to place the chairs for a deaf classroom. But the little girl when she's in school, like the teacher is asking the kids to spell, and she can't respond because she doesn't hear. So it kind of like brings up the debate: do children do better in a special class, or is it better to put them in amongst everyone else? It brings up that kind of debate as well.
You'd imagine that it must. So you'd imagine that it must stunt their development. Like if they're struggling to understand what's happening, like it can't be good. But in terms of the mother character, like she's probably typical of certain type of parent where it's all about her status and status of her own status in society and her children, and that her status is reflected by how successful her children are. And she talks about her son, like oh, he's got 3 A's in his GCSEs and all this kind of stuff. And in some ways the young daughter, like, she's almost like too much trouble. Like it's terrible, her attitude, but that she's like an inconvenience for her, really.
Mm-hmm. But it's believable is the thing.
Yeah,
like
it's believable.
Yeah.
Mm.
Is the little girl really deaf?
She is, yeah.
I think so.
Okay.
No, she is, yeah. I watched an interview that she didn't say much. She was asked like two questions and she answered like yes and fun, I think. Like she but no, she is deaf, and they had the cast for it. Like, and they said as soon as she walked in, they knew she was the right person for the role. Yeah.
That's great.
And you're right about in the same interview, actually, Rachel Shenton mentioned that her father, he went deaf when he was kind of old. For the last 2 years, I think he might be dead now, but for the last 2 years of his life anyway, he went deaf, and she had to learn sign language then, and that's when she learned all about it. But the thing about sign language is that there's not one sign language like for the world, Like there's English sign language, there's Irish sign language, there's Australian sign language, there's French. You think they would like take the
universalize it
opportunity,
in some way.
Have a universal sign language.
This is universally the sign for bunny rabbit. Like, yeah.
It's quite interesting that stutterer won for a problem with speech, and then this one for a little girl who's deaf. So it's obviously something that is a very powerful medium that isn't generally told. There's not many stories about deaf people or people who have stutter, not really. So they actually hit on both Stutterer and this are both very powerful films that a lot of people have struggles with these issues.
And you think like in especially in the developed world, that it's terrible that this is still a problem. That and it's obviously down to the investment I suppose they're marginalized, that they don't have a big enough voice, I suppose. So I mean, you can imagine in kind of in a lot of parts of the world where they just don't have the resources, but there's no excuse for where we are.
Yeah. Did you either of you ever go to school with somebody that was deaf or no? Me either.
No, actually.
Yeah.
No.
So so you can kind of see from like the teacher's point of view and like some points of view here of like you've got an entire class of kids you have to take care of, and then how do you then make sure that this one child is getting the attention that the one child needs while also taking care of the larger class? So to your point, Claire, it does bring up that debate, like would the child be better off being put in a special needs class, but then is the special needs class going to slow the child down, or social interaction issues and stuff? So yeah, it is a tough issue, especially with how teachers nowadays, so much is thrown on teachers to just raise my child for me. And
and see, it's not as if she has an intellectual disability. She has this physical disability, so she could be absolutely highly intelligent, so she wouldn't be suited to a kind of a special class, but like a deaf school or something where like these children would thrive unless they have a massive support with them, kind of a support worker in the classroom. It would be impossible for them to thrive in a normal classroom.
Yeah, deaf school or something, because then they can interact and interesting. All right, well, reviews. Claire, you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, so for me it's a very powerful film and highlighting something that a lot of people, adults and children, struggle with. So for me it's 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm gonna go 5, mostly just because I don't like doing half stars. But I mean, I can't fault it. I mean, and I'm not gonna blame this film for the Oscars being cheesy and lame in how they select films. I think it's a great film and totally deserves any accolades that it gets.
Okay, I broadly agree. It does highlight an issue that needs to be highlighted, and there is at the beginning and at the end there's a sort of a message there about the plight of the deaf community, or the struggles that hearing impaired people have. So it was definitely made as an informative piece, as an educational piece of work, and as a film, it was, as you say, I can't fault it, so I would give it 4 stars.
Excellent. All right, no budget audience, there you have it. We really enjoyed this film and would recommend that you see it. As always, we'll throw a link into the show notes. Check it out. Let us know what you think. You can leave a comment or send us a message through social media at No Budget Show on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. And until next time, we'll see you later. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.